Alright folks, today we're going to talk about electron configurations. Last we did orbital diagrams, so now we're going to go and put them into electrical configurations so it's easier for us to work with. Okay. So what I have to do is I have to look at each element, and I notice that lithium is element number 3. So my first two electrons go in the 1s orbital, and my second ones go in the 2s, and I only have one of them. So my total here, if you look at the 2 plus 1, 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. Okay. What I'm doing is looking at every electron, figuring out where it exists. And for example, you start with electron number 1. Sodium is number 11, so that's how high I have to get. So look at electrons number 1 and 2. Remember, helium belongs over on the left of the periodic table at this point, and they are both in the 1s level, and they're 2 electrons. If I look below them to numbers 3 and 4, I find those are in the 2s, and there are 2 of them. And then as I look to electrons 5 through 10, they're over on the right-hand side. They're in the p block, still at the second level, and there are a total of 6 of them. So I now have a total of 10 electrons. I'm not done yet because I need number 11. I look where number 11 is, and it's in the s block at the 3 level, and we have 1 electron. All right. Now, we're going to go down. We're going to do potassium. Notice potassium is number 19. Right, so I'm just going to kind of run through this one quickly. 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. I don't need to repeat all this because, just talking about it because you just saw it for sodium. Right, now we have to go past past sodium, and sodium is in the 3s level, but this time I've got 2 electrons because I've got sodium and magnesium. And I look to the right, and I've got my 3p level. And I've got a total of 6 electrons in there. And then finally I end up with my 4s level, and I've got 1 there. So let's stop for just a second and look at lithium, sodium, and potassium. And notice they are all one above the other. And notice that they all end in S1. First one at 3s1, second one at, 2s1, 3s1, and 4s1. And how cool is that? All right. Well, now we're going to do neon, and neon's number 10, so it should be pretty close to sodium at number 11. Okay, the only thing we have to do is leave off the 3s1 at the end because we don't need that extra electron. So that's exactly what we do. 1s2, 2s2, and 2p6. All right, now aluminum is number 13. So we're going to do number 13, which is aluminum. Hello, number 13. All right. And that's going to be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. All right, that's a total of 10 electrons, 3s2, and 3p1. And that gives us a total of 13. Now, calcium is kind of interesting. I'm going to do calcium first. Calcium is number 20. So forget the fact that it has a 2 plus out here for just a moment, and we're going to write calcium. And then we're going to see how that impacts us. Well, calcium is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, that's 10 electrons. 3s2, 3p6, that's 18 electrons. I've got 2 more, some at the 4s2. All right, so everybody should be able to see that we have a total of 20 electrons here to match our 20 protons. But then we remember that we said, oh wait, we had to come back to that. We have a 2 plus charge, which means we have 2 fewer electrons than we were supposed to. Remember, you can't mess with the number of protons, so you can only mess with the number of electrons. So we're going to take this 4s2, because that's 2 electrons, and it's at the end. It's the last 2 that were added, so they're the first 2 that are going to be deleted. Okay, so for calcium, my electron configuration ends in 3p6. 3p6. Interesting. All right, so let's go on to nitrogen. Nitrogen, again, let's do nitrogen without worrying about the electron configuration, about the ion business. Okay, we're just going to ignore that for a minute. We have 1s2, 2s2, 2, and 2p3. All right, so now what happens? We're done. That's 7 electrons. When we're done, what about this -3 stuff? Well, that tells us we need 3 more electrons. They're going to go right here. So it's going to be 2p6. Okay, so if you look at that, you now have a total of 10 electrons, which makes sense because nitrogen has 7, plus we have 3 more, okay, because we're negatively charged. How about sodium? Sodium is number 11. Okay, we did sodium earlier, but we'll just do it again. It's 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, and 3s1. Well, it has a 1 plus charge, so we don't need that last one. In fact, we can't have it. Well, notice that nitrogen, which has a 3 minus charge, and sodium, which has a 1 plus charge, have exactly the same electron configuration. They do. And as a result, you can't tell them apart based on their electron configuration. So just remember that. Right, we got a few more to do. Phosphorus is number 15. So it's 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. That's 10. 3s2, s2, and 3p, 3p3. All right, let's look at nickel. Nickel's number 28. Right, this is a little harder because it's sitting there in the D block, but I'm sure we can do it. 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. 3s2, 3p6. That's pretty straightforward. Okay. Well, now we're up to 18, and if we go to 4s2, we're up to 20. All right. Well, now I have to get 8 more. Well, you'll notice that I could fit 10 in the D block, and you have to remember that the number of the D block is 1 less than where we're at. So it's 3D, and we're looking for nickel, so we have to go across and we have to count 8 electrons to get there. Right? Now, it doesn't hurt to sit down and say, well, there are 2 here, and 2 here, and 10 here. It's a total of 10. And there are 2 here, and there's 6 there, so that's 12. Okay. Did I do that right? Sorry, I messed up. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 6 is 10, plus 2 is 12, plus 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20, and then this gives us our 28 over there. All right, let's try zinc. Notice it's only 2 further than nickel. So when we look up here at the 3d8, we have to add 2 electrons. So it's just going to end in 3d10. So it's exactly what it was above here. 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, and 4s2, and 3d10. That goes up by 2. All right, bromine. Bromine's a little bit further across. It's only 5 more across. So I'm going to start getting lazy here, guys, because otherwise this podcast is going to go on forever. So it's all of those things, plus at the end it says 4p5. That's the only difference. All right, how about argon? Well, argon is number 18, so I'll go and do that one because that's short. But essentially, argon, just look up at zinc and start counting electrons. You start counting electrons, you see 2 at the 1s level, you see 2 at the 2s level, you see 6 at the 2p level. Well, that's 10 so far. At the 3s level, there are 2 more, and the 3p level, there's 6 more. All right? So now if I look at my number is 18, which is what I'm supposed to have for argon, so it checks out. All right, I think this is the last one. Helium's real easy. Helium, there are only 2 electrons. They're both in the 1s orbital. Strontium, if I look at strontium, I have to find it. It's number 38. It's in column 2A. All right, so if I do strontium, it's going to be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2. Right, 4s2 is calcium, so I'm still going. 3d10, 4p6, come on, 5p6. Right, and now, wait a minute, wait. That's not right. How about 4s2, 5s2? All right, let's make sure that I didn't make a mistake. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 6 is 10, 20, 30, 36, 37, 38. Okay, so strontium is number 38, but notice that it has a 2 plus charge. So I ignored that when I first started out, but now that it has a 2 plus charge, it means it has 2 electrons fewer than it should have. Okay, so what we're simply going to do is just cross that out. All right, how about phosphorus with the -3 charge? Well, phosphorus typically has 15 electrons. 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p, and we only go out to 3. But notice we're going to have a -3 charge, so we have an extra 3 electrons. So instead of being 3, that number up there is going to be 6. And that kind of looks a whole lot like, if we look at just the electron configurations, it looks like the electron configuration for argon. How about bromine with a minus charge? Well, bromine has 35 electrons normally. With a negative charge, it's going to have 36. So 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, 4s2, where am I? 4s2, 3d, 1, 2, 3, yep, I do have to put that in, 3d10, 4p6. Let's see where I am. I've got 10, I've got 20, I've got 30, I've got 36 so far, and I went too far. All right, so I would go 35, which is 4p5, which is 35, but then if I supercharge or whatever, right, that 5 goes away and it becomes a 6. Okay, so, all right, that's bromine. So that's it. We'll see you in class. If you have questions, let me know.